Hi, Ante here. There are over 9.1 thousand cryptocurrencies in the world right now, and there is no end in sight. So here are some amazing facts that everybody should know about the world's largest and the most well-known cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. Nobody knows who invented Bitcoin. It is the first ever cryptocurrency that was launched in January of 2009, but we will probably never find out who did it. All we know as of right now is that it was created under the name of Satoshi Nakamoto, which was the name that signed the white paper which announced its subsequent release. There have been some suspects over the years, and some people even claimed that they were Satoshi, but eventually couldn't provide any evidence to support the claims, so there goes that. But besides that, there are only some minor clues from the emails and such from the early days. Nothing too specific though, so it remains a mystery to be solved. There are some conspiracy theories that claim that Bitcoin was created by four tech giants: Samsung, Toshiba, Nakamichi, and Motorola. The first few letters of their names, when added together, form Satoshi Nakamoto. And that's all there is to the theory, as far as I know. I don't believe that it is true, and obviously there is no evidence to support it whatsoever, but it is interesting. Bitcoin, as it is the case with most cryptocurrencies, has something called a hard cap, which is the maximum number of units that will ever exist, and Bitcoin's hard cap is 21 million. Not all Bitcoins are in circulation as of right now. Out of the maximum supply of 21 million units, only around 18.6 million have already been mined, and 6.25 Bitcoins are being released into circulation every 10 minutes. What releases the newly created Bitcoins is the process called mining, which has two roles: validating or processing transactions and extending the blockchain with new blocks. Blockchain is one of Bitcoin's underlying technologies, which consists of blocks linked together by cryptography, and what links them are the miners, or computers that solve complex puzzles. Each block contains validated transactions, and miners basically race against each other trying to solve the next block, for which, when they succeed, they're awarded the aforementioned 6.25 Bitcoins. And that reward obviously incentivizes miners to continue spending resources and mine. The last Bitcoin will be mined around the year 2140. Although there's only a bit over 2.3 million Bitcoins left to mine, it will take more than 100 more years to mine all of them because of something called the halving. What it does is it reduces the mining reward in half roughly every 4 years. Initially, the mining reward was 50 BTC. Then, after 210,000 blocks, it got reduced to 25. Then 4 years later to 12.5. The most recent halving occurred in May of 2020, so that's why miners get only 6.25 BTC for their service. That trend is going to continue until all of them are mined, but even then miners will have incentive to mine, as they'll still have mining fees to earn. Most transactions take some fee in Bitcoins to execute, and each block has an average 1,000 to 3,000 transactions, so the miner who solves the puzzle first gets the reward plus all the fees contained within. Bitcoin's first real-life transaction happened when a guy named Laszlo Haniec bought 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoins. It happened on May 22, 2010, and that date is celebrated as Bitcoin Pizza Day ever since. Watch this video to find out exactly what happened. Bitcoin has been used for illegal activities in the past. Nothing new, same as almost all other currencies in the world, both fiat and cryptocurrencies, Bitcoins were used to trade illegally. But the key thing here is that it was used on a dark website called Silk Road, which was created by Ross Ulbricht with the idea that the free market should not have any limitations. So he created a website where you could buy anything you wanted, both legal and illegal. Eventually, he was arrested and sentenced to a double life plus 40 years, and the FBI shut down the site in 2013. One of the richest Bitcoin addresses is owned by the FBI. The richest Bitcoin holder is, of course, Satoshi Nakamoto, whose Bitcoin holdings over his multiple addresses is estimated around 1 million BTC. But the second largest coin holder is the FBI. Because after Silk Road shut down and Ross's arrest, they seized over 144,000 bitcoins from his wallet, which amounts to over $8.6 billion at the Bitcoin price of 60K. And that is just from that one seizure alone. Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer network, which means that users can transact among themselves without the need of an intermediary, such as a bank or a payment processor. All transactions are validated by miners, which are scattered across the world, so when it comes to the network safety, there is no single point of failure. Bitcoin has died many times. Yes, you heard that correctly. In fact, it has died 404 times so far. 99bitcoins.com has been tracking how many times somebody proclaimed Bitcoin dead ever since 2010. And last time I mentioned their website on my channel, the number was at 395. So Bitcoin died 9 more times in a matter of months. Let's see what the price was doing in the meantime. Oh, alright. By the way, you can track it yourself, links in the description. Make sure you never lose your private keys, because you will lose your Bitcoin. If you have a wallet of some sort, it has 2 keys, a public key and a private key. The private key should be kept secret as it is used to sign transactions. So if anyone gets access to your private keys, they can send your funds wherever they want. Likewise, if you lose your private key, there is no way to retrieve it. So be careful, as studies show that up to 20% of all Bitcoins are unrecoverable. Some are stored on old hard drives that now lie on some dumping ground. Others, however, are stored on hard drives whose whereabouts are well known, but their owners forgot their passwords. And that's a shame. Bitcoin is extremely divisible. Similar to a dollar being divisible into 100 cents, 1 unit of Bitcoin can be divided into 100 million units, and they're called Satoshis, named after its founder. Bitcoin is not the first attempt at creating a digital currency. The term blockchain had been used for the first time in a 1982 dissertation called Computer Systems Established, Maintained, and Trusted by Mutually Suspicious Groups by David Chaum. And ever since, cryptographers have been trying to invent digital money. That eventually laid ground to the forming of a group of cryptographers called the Cypherpunks. They had multiple attempts at it through the 90s and 2000s, with projects like Hashcash, DigiCash, B-Money, BitGold, and even though they weren't successful by themselves, all of them helped the forming of Bitcoin as we know it today, because it uses some parts of their protocols. Bitcoin can't be banned. Although many countries have tried it, Bitcoin turned out to be fairly resistant to bans due to its decentralized nature. The network was made in such a way that anyone who can acquire a mining rig can run a node and mine. So banning it in China or India will not harm the entire system. It might do it some damage in the short term due to lower accessibility, but in the long run they're probably harming themselves more than the network. Bitcoin mining consumes huge amounts of electricity. You've probably heard that Bitcoin is now ahead of Argentina in energy consumption, and yes, that is true. But all that electricity is required for validating all the transactions from the network and keeping it secure. Just how good or bad it is, you can learn in my recent video. Recently, Bitcoin crossed $1 trillion of market capitalization, which makes it a more serious and therefore more secure and much more appealing investment in the eyes of traditional investors. Bitcoin transactions are irreversible, meaning that when a transaction is confirmed and included in the blockchain, there is no way to reverse it, and it stays on the blockchain forever. All transactions ever made on the blockchain are still there, and currently over 677,000 blocks have been mined since 2009. There's a difference between Bitcoin and Bitcoin. Bitcoin with capitalization is used to describe the network itself, whereas Bitcoin without capitalization is used to describe Bitcoins as a unit of account. It is possible to track how much Bitcoin do certain companies have on Bitcoin Treasuries. Ever since MicroStrategy bought their first batch of BTC in August of 2020, it became something of a trend among institutions to hold Bitcoin as their strategic reserves. MicroStrategy remains the largest holder, but Tesla is on the second place, which was huge news when it broke out. I wonder what this list is going to look like in a few months. That'd be all for the list. If I've missed anything, feel free to leave any random Bitcoin facts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another block.